Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you were just tuning in, we've just gone over what QB1 would be for fantasy purposes, quarterbacks 1 through 12. In this segment here, we're going to take a look at quarterbacks 13 through 24, so that QB2 category. But before we get into that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature to do the exact same thing. If you have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Thursday afternoon. But like I was saying, we are going to finish up our fantasy football quarterback rankings, hitting on the number 13 through 24 quarterbacks, and a couple of honorable mentions I have as well. At 13, we have Brock Purdy. And Brock Purdy is an interesting quarterback because if you look at him as a football player, what he does is win. But a lot of that has to do with the situation that's around him. And the situation around him is a little bit volatile right now. You talk about one of the best offensive linemen in the history of football in Trent Williams, who we'll talk about in a little bit. Doesn't seem like he'll play week one. We don't know how far he'll hold out for. Same thing for his favorite wide receiver target in Brandon Ayuk. Seems like he's not going to play week one. We don't know what's going to happen with him, how long he'll be out, if he'll even be on the team. This is a situation, if you're Brock Purdy or a Brock Purdy fantasy owner, it feels like worst case scenario. Brock Purdy struggled a little bit in the preseason, and we saw what he did in games where he didn't have Trent Williams specifically. That's what it was. In games where he didn't have Trent Williams, there was a noticeable drop-off in his fantasy performance, also his real-life performance. He was pressured. He threw more interceptions. Usually he's a guy that doesn't turn the ball over. Trent Williams is the most important piece to this 49ers offense, and without him, Brock Purdy, I think, comfortably falls outside of that top 12. Now, if they're able to work something out with Trent Williams, with Brandon Ayuk, with both of them, he could probably jump a couple spots. Maybe he could get up to 10. Maybe he could get up to 9. But without that, I can't put him in my quarterback 1 rankings. He's sitting here at 13 for me. At 14, we have our second rookie quarterback of these rankings, Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, the number 1 overall pick. Everyone in Chicago's savior now. He is going to be a very, very good quarterback. Chicago got a great one. They completely fleeced the trade with the Panthers back in 2022, getting DJ Moore, building around now Caleb Williams, the second number 1 overall pick in a row for them. It's huge. They have a great system, great weapons around Caleb Williams. The defense is going to be really good this year, which I know has nothing to do with the offense, but the weapons around Caleb Williams, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet, these are really, really good weapons. They bring in DeAndre Swift as well, a guy that I'm a little bit lower on, but he can still catch passes. Caleb Williams got that rushing upside. Again, my 2 favorite words in today's episode, but Caleb Williams is going to be really good at football, and he is going to finish as a top 24 fantasy quarterback. He's up here at 14 for me. At 15, we got another old guy, Matthew Stafford. You know, you can say he's old, you can say it's boring, but he's continued to be productive. He had a little bit of a drop off last season. He was dealing with some elbow injuries all of last year. He didn't have his favorite target in Cooper Kupp for most of the year. He managed to make do, made a star out of Puka Nacua, who now he has him and Cooper Kupp coming together. This should be a resurgent year for Matthew Stafford. He's up here comfortably at 15. I don't see a reason why he's going all the way in the back of drafts around quarterbacks like Daniel Jones, like Deshaun Watson. He will overplay his draft value from there. Excuse me. At 16, I've got Tua. Tua signs a massive deal this season. There's a clear argument for it. We saw what he did last year. He finished in the top 10 for quarterbacks last year. There's no reason to assume, other than injury questions, he won't be able to be up there again. Now, I think he'll take a little bit of a step back. The Dolphins play a much tougher schedule than they did last year. especially down the stretch when we get towards the fantasy playoffs. And that's when you need your quarterback to shine. Beginning of the season, though, Tua is one of my favorite quarterbacks to have. The Dolphins have won't say a cakewalk, but a very easy schedule for about the first 10, 11 weeks of the season. So if you're looking for a quarterback that you can just plug and play in a really good offense, Tua is a guy that you can get later on in drafts that I think should be really, really good for the beginning of the season. At 17, we have Jared Goff, another guy that signed a massive contract. What's he doing all the way down there at 17 with Tua? Well, this Lions offense, I think, is due for a little bit of regression. Jared Goff is going to be productive. Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be productive. The running backs, I think, will be very productive. But they lost a lot of their wide receiving weapons. Their wide receiver 2, their wide receiver 3, all went elsewhere. This is a team that's going to focus more on the running game with that great offensive line. And that's not to say Jared Goff will be bad, but I think he's going to take a slight dip off from where he was last season. At 18, we have Justin Herbert. And a lot of these things can be said. Justin Herbert is, in my opinion, a top 5 quarterback in the entire NFL. But he's in a system where they don't have wide receivers, really. Their number one receiver is Josh Palmer, who I love Josh Palmer as a wide receiver 3 in 12-team, 13, 14-team leagues. But he's not a guy that you're going to go out and draft. He should be going undrafted in most leagues, right? You're not banking on this Chargers wide receiver core. Also, new coach Jim Harbaugh loves to pound the rock, run the ball. Look at what he did in Michigan. J.J. McCarthy hardly threw the ball. He was very much a handoff merchant, and that's what I expect the offense in L.A. to look like this year. Justin Herbert's going to take a back seat regardless of how talented he is. He's going to come in when they need him to come in. He's going to be really good when they need him to be really good, but he's not going to be the focal point. He's not going to be throwing for 400 yards a game. He falls to number 18. At 19, we have Kirk Cousins. We're getting to this boring quarterback range. Your Jared Goffs, your Matthew Staffords, your Kirk Cousins. These guys that are just going to game in, game out, get you 20, 21 points. Maybe they could explode, give you a 3-touchdown week or something, but they're going to be solid. They're going to be guys that you can feel comfortable plugging and playing, especially against really good matchups. Kirk Cousins fits very neatly into that group in a good offense filled with weapons in Atlanta. Kirk Cousins is my 19th quarterback. At 20, Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is up and down. He has weeks where he'll give you 40 points, but he also has weeks where he'll give you 10. That's why he's all the way down here at 20. Maybe his total points will rise a little bit higher than this 20th overall rank, but when you get into a week-by-week basis, he's a guy that is going to be pretty matchup dependent, especially with the weapons that he has. At 21 is Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield also up and down, but his up and down is more season by season rather than game by game. He has really good weapons down there. He had a really good season last year, which is why I'm a little more cautious to draft him. He should be healthy, which is why in his previous bad seasons he was not very good. But I'm a little wary of him still. He needs to earn my trust before I rise him up this list. At 22 is Geno Smith. And honestly, if we're ranking quarterbacks, this is way low for Geno Smith. Geno Smith is a top 15 quarterback in this league this year. But as far as fantasy goes, he's not going to give you those monster weeks. They have great offensive weapons in the run game. Kenny Walker is one of my favorites, but it's not going to be a super explosive offense. Closing out the list here almost, at 23, we have Deshaun Watson. And Deshaun Watson is a case where there's a realistic chance he finishes all the way up at QB9. But there's also, in my opinion, a bigger chance that he finishes somewhere around QB 26, right? This is a guy that hasn't been able to put it together since he came to Cleveland. This is a guy that hasn't proven that he should be trusted to put it together since he came to Cleveland. There's no reason to put your trust in him. Maybe you take a late round flyer on him. And 24 is Daniel Jones. He beats out a couple of guys that we'll talk about in the honorable mentions, but you see we're starting to get to the bottom of the barrel in quarterbacks. So if you're looking at a 2-quarterback league, I'd try to get someone Geno Smith or higher, right? Daniel Jones is up here at 24 because I'll give you one guess. It's rushing upside, right? He's got the legs that's going to propel him forward in this, just that extra little push that's put him over guys right behind him like rookie Bo Nix, Will Levis, Bryce Young, all of these guys that I think will take a big step this season. Obviously, two second-year quarterbacks in Will Levis and Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young and Will Levis will both take a step up. They're just outside my top 24, though. And Bo Nix, I think, is going to be very comfortably average. He'll do his thing. He'll check the ball down a lot. He'll be accurate. He'll get 200 yards a game and a touchdown, maybe two. He'll be solid. That's what I expect out of him week in and week out. But that's my quarterback list. We've been 1 through 24. Let me know if there's anything that you think I got egregiously wrong, anything you think I'm crazy for putting on here. I'd love to hear your thoughts. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to take a look at a real quarterback situation, one we didn't talk about, rookie quarterback Drake May versus Jacoby Brissett. The Patriots finally made a decision, so stick around for that. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.